And this year, on that birthday party, so we go to a hotel room, we got some girls, and we have drugs and everything. And we're in there, and the police came in, and they found us in there, found the girl.
Michael Irvin was a football icon, but off the field, his life was unraveling. Sanders witnessed it all up close. The revelations he's sharing now uncover a side of Irvin the public never imagined. Inside the Cowboys' notorious White House, Sanders saw the true extent of the chaos. The dark reality was laid bare: violence, drugs, and the intervention of Deion. Nobody comprehends the depth of Michael Irvin's struggles better than his closest friend and former teammate, Deion Primetime Sanders. What Sanders saw during the Cowboys' most volatile seasons exposes a harsh truth about one of the NFL's elite players, a darkness so profound it nearly ruined everything Irvin had built. This is a story never fully told. From the perspective of those who lived it, how violence, drugs, and uncontrollable anger nearly ended the life of an NFL legend. The mid-1990s Cowboys existed in a bubble. 3 Super Bowl wins in 4 years fostered belief among players that they were untouchable beyond accountability. Michael Irvin epitomized this dangerous mentality. The first major crack appeared on March 4th, 1996, when Irvin was arrested alongside teammate Alfredo Roberts at a Dallas area residence. This wasn't an ordinary arrest. It offered a glimpse into a world of excess that shocked even seasoned NFL insiders.
And then March 5th is my birthday, and so I have one big party, hang out, have fun, and then that's it. I'm starting back training, and then I didn't do anything. I was just training football, and I would do this every year. And this year, on that birthday party, so we go to a hotel room, we got some girls, and we have drugs and everything, and we're in there, and the police came in, and they found us in there, found the girls. And
authorities discovered 10.3 g of cocaine, over an ounce of marijuana, and drug paraphernalia in the hotel room, along with 2 women identified as escorts. The scene was a damning reflection of how far the Cowboys culture had strayed from the disciplined championship teams of just a few years prior. Yet, this arrest wasn't only about drugs. It revealed a far darker truth, a systematic culture debauchery running right under the NFL's radar. The investigation exposed the infamous White House, a rented property that became the central hub for the Cowboys' party lifestyle. The exposure came via betrayal. Dennis Padini, Irvin's former aide, secretly filmed Irvin buying cocaine and sold the footage to local TV station WFAA-TV. Even more shocking was how Irvin discovered this breach.
A couple weeks before, he said, "Hey man, I think we've been infiltrated. You need to shut down the White House." And I said to Leon, "This is not a movie. This is not a movie. So we're not shutting down the White House."
Irvin's response reveals the arrogance and denial that characterized this period, even when warned by a...
Irvin's reaction showcased the arrogance and denial that defined this era. Even after warning from teammates, he refused to accept that his world of excess could collapse. Ultimately, Irvin pleaded no contest to felony cocaine possession, receiving a $10,000 fine, $800 of community service, and a 5-game NFL suspension. While the drug arrest revealed Irvin's recklessness, what unfolded 2 years later exposed something far more dangerous: his potential for explosive violence. July 29, 1998, training camp in Wichita Falls. Texas began like any other day. Players were getting haircuts, relaxing between drills, and gearing up for what would soon become one of the NFL's most infamous incidents. Everett Maceiver, a 318-pound offensive guard, was new to the Cowboys and trying to prove himself. Irvin, the veteran superstar, made his mission to instruct rookies and new players about the team's hierarchy. What unfolded next nearly turned tragic.
And Everett was the new guy. Man, I'm working and we messing with Everett, And Big E and the guys, they started messing with him. You can't let that little receiver mess, dude. And everybody, oh my, over here, cause we were trying to get, okay. And then Everett, cause we had drinks, he get up, dude, to be truthful, and other people let people know, I was getting my ass kicked. This big old joker was whooping my butt.
The confrontation escalated quickly. What began as routine locker room hazing morphed into something far more serious. Irvin, despite being much smaller than Maceiver, refused to back down. When the struggle turned against him, he made a choice that would haunt him forever. Irvin grabbed barber scissors and stabbed Maceiver in the neck. creating a 2-inch gash that required 20 stitches. The wound came perilously close to Masiver's carotid artery and could have been fatal. Blood poured as teammates scrambled to stop it and process what had just occurred.
Should never have grabbed the scissors, but I was in fight or flight mode, you know what I mean? And dude, I went back to my room right after that, and there's blood everywhere, blood all over me. And Big Cat came in and he said, man.
The immediate aftermath revealed both Irvin's fear and the complicated dynamics inside the Cowboys organization. Covered in his teammates' blood, Irvin retreated to his room, convinced he had committed murder and would spend his life in prison. Yet, what happened next proved even more shocking than the stabbing itself. Despite the severity of his injury, Masiver refused to press charges, a decision reflecting both his character and the twisted loyalty binding the Cowboys together.
Michael, you know, he said, I know the severity of what would happen if the truth got out. And he said, man, I don't want to take you away from your kids like you almost took me away from mine, dude. That was...
This act of grace from a man nearly killed by his teammate highlights the complex relationships in professional sports. Masiver understood that Irvin's conviction would not only end his career, but devastate his family. Jerry Jones reportedly paid an undisclosed settlement to ensure Masiver's silence, and no criminal charges were filed. For Deion Sanders, who joined the Cowboys in 1995, witnessing friends spiral into violence and self-destruction became increasingly hard to endure. Sanders had a larger-than-life personality, yet was grounded in faith and family values, starkly contrasting Irvin's recklessness. The relationship between Sanders and Irvin during this time was complicated. They were teammates, friends, and fellow Floridians who shared similar backgrounds. But Sanders watched his friend destroy himself and refused to stand by idly.
One time I was out there wilding out. Bad, man, just crazy, white, acting crazy. And Deion showed up at the house. And he said, hey, man, enough, this gotta stop. I mean, Deion bowled up like, let's go. Right now, we're gonna fight right here, right?
This intervention by Sanders demonstrates the depth of their friendship and his willingness to physically confront Irvin when necessary. It also underscores how far Irvin had fallen, so much so that even his closest friends had to restrain him from self-destructive actions. The violence wasn't confined to teammates. In 1996, a Dallas police officer named Johnny Hernandez hired a hitman to kill Irvin for $30,000 after discovering Irvin's affair with his fiancée. The hitman was actually an undercover officer, and Hernandez was sentenced to 12 years in prison. This incident highlighted the dangerous world Irvin was navigating. These weren't isolated events. They were part of a recurring pattern that threatened to obliterate everything Irvin had built. The man who had risen from poverty and adversity to become one of the NFL's greatest receivers was now a walking time bomb, capable of sudden, explosive violence.
First of all, I'd never seen this kind of food before, you know, at the meal table. And we had this big offensive lineman. And this dude just bullied everybody, right? And the freshmen have to eat last. I took the tray, smashed it.
Irvin's career abruptly ended on October 10th, 1999, during a game against the Philadelphia Eagles, when he suffered a career-ending neck injury. The moment was captured not only by television cameras, but also by the emotional response of his teammate and friend. Sanders' presence, praying over his injured friend.
I said, this joker finna send me home. I just got here. Yeah. I just got here, right? And then a couple weeks later, we're freshmen working, a freshman's workout, right? And we get the music box.
Symbolize a genuine care beneath their public personas. Irvin was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, a narrowing of the spinal column that had gone undetected throughout his career. The injury forced Irvin's retirement at age 33, ending not only a brilliant career, but also serving as a stark reminder of the destructive path he had been on. For Sanders, witnessing his friend's career end so dramatically was a lesson in football fragility and the value of the relationships forged along the way. Yet retirement didn't end Irvin's struggles. If anything, losing football
of misbehaving get.
Jimmy kept a tight rein on all of us, you know, even through the off season. You know, all of those off-season workouts, they were voluntary, mandatory. You know, so they're voluntary, but you better be here. You know, that kind of.
The one constant that had provided structure and purpose pushed him into even darker territory. The harsh truth that Deion Sanders knows about Michael Irvin goes far beyond these violent incidents. It's a truth about addiction, desperation, and how close one man came to losing everything that mattered to him. The rise and fall of the playmaker, constructing an empire of excess. To understand how Michael Irvin became capable of the violence and self-destruction we've just witnessed,
You had the White House, which is, kind of like basically a brothel, if nothing else.
Yeah, and basically, that's what it was. And that's what we did, and we did have an extra house, and, and after just thinking I didn't want to go to hotels and all the problems.
we must return to the beginning. The rise of a legend and the building of an empire fueled by talent, arrogance, and ultimately, excess that consumed everything in its path. Michael Jerome Irvin's story starts in the projects of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he was born into poverty, but blessed with extraordinary athletic talent and an unbreakable will to succeed. Drafted 11th overall by the Dallas Cowboys in 1988.
So we thought, or I thought, that maybe I should get some guys together and we just buy an extra house, and we did. We had an extra house. It was right around the corner. I mean, you go in the backyard and you see the practice field. So we practiced right there.
Which means you could be on the practice field.
Irvin arrived in Dallas with a swagger and confidence that had made him a star at the University of Miami. Yet, even before reaching the professional level, warning signs of the explosive personality that would later wreak havoc were evident. His very first day at Miami foreshadowed what was to come. Interview 941, 10:03. This incident wasn't merely freshman hazing gone wrong. It was an early indicator of Irvin's refusal to tolerate what he perceived as disrespect, no matter the consequences. His college coach, Jimmy Johnson, immediately recognized both Irvin's talent and his potential for trouble. Interview 1017, 1029. The pattern was already clear.
How did y'all get Deion to defect and come on over to Dallas after the first go-around?
Oh, no, that was me. I recruited Deion. He said, yeah. He said, let me talk to his people. I said, all right, you talk to his people. I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna call him. Right. So I called.
Irvin wouldn't back down from confrontation, even when doing so would have been in his best interest. The same intensity that made him dominant on the field would later appear in increasingly dangerous ways off it. When Irvin arrived in Dallas, he joined a franchise in transition. The Cowboys were coming off a 3-13 season in 1988, with new coach Jimmy Johnson attempting to rebuild the organization from the ground up. Irvin's arrival marked the start of what would become one of the most successful and controversial dynasties in NFL history. During his 12-year career with the Dallas Cowboys, from 1988 to 1999, Irvin recorded 750 receptions for 11,194 yards and 65 touchdowns, setting franchise records and earning 5 Pro Bowl selections. As part of the legendary triplets alongside quarterback Troy Aikman and running back Emmitt Smith.
I told him, I'm going to set something up for you when you come on in. You come in town, I'm going to set something up. I got to set this thing up at the club called Guantanamo Rod. Help me get Deion.
Irvin helped lead Dallas to 3 Super Bowl championships in 1992, 1993, and 1995. But success fueled arrogance, and arrogance fostered a dangerous belief that normal rules didn't apply to the Cowboys. The team's party culture grew out of their rapid rise, from a 1-15 record in 1989 to Super Bowl champions by 1992, creating an environment where players felt untouchable. This cultural shift became most evident when Jimmy Johnson departed after the 1993 season, replaced by Barry Switzer, whose coaching approach was far more permissive. Interview 1156, 1215. With Johnson's discipline gone, the Cowboys players were free to indulge their worst impulses. And Michael Irvin, as the team's emotional leader and biggest star, became the architect of what would later be known as the most infamous party house in NFL history. Interview 1230, 1249. The White House wasn't merely a nickname. It was a 2-story brick residence at 115 Dorset Drive in Irving, Texas, serving as the epicenter of the Cowboys' descent into debauchery. Leasing teammate Alvin Harper's name to protect Irvin, the house cost roughly $2,000 to $3,000 per month in 1990s rates.
As I'm standing here today, I promise you, God whispered to me, don't go to that hotel room. I promise you I heard it. I heard it as clearly as we are talking here today. He whispered it to me.
This proximity wasn't accidental. It symbolized how fully the culture of excess had penetrated the Cowboys organization. The The house was situated just 100 yards from the team's Valley Ranch practice facility, creating a surreal scenario where players could literally view their workplace from their playground. The White House contained 5 themed rooms devoted to various vices: marijuana rooms, cocaine and ecstasy rooms, and areas designated for sexual activities. Irvin acted as the self-proclaimed president of this operation, coordinating logistics with near-military precision. Weekly gatherings spanned from Friday post-practice to Sunday night, 72-hour benders typically involving 10 to 20 players and 20 to 50 women, including escorts, strippers recruited from local venues like Baby Dolls and Fans. The operation was financed through player contributions.
Later, live on the news. And so Jerry, I was in meetings and Jerry called me out of the meetings in his office. He said that his story is breaking about...
With Irvin fronting costs from a substantial salary, this environment was where Deion Sanders arrived in 1995. Sanders joined the Cowboys after signing a record $35 million deal, largely influenced by Irvin. Their friendship, forged through competition and mutual respect, would soon face challenges due to the toxic environment they now shared. Interview 1433, 1448. Irvin's recruitment of Sanders wasn't only about football. It was about bringing his friend into an empire he had built. An empire where normal rules didn't apply and excess wasn't merely tolerated, but celebrated. Interview 1459, 1510. Sanders, despite his flamboyant primetime persona, was notably different from Irvin in navigating the team's party culture. While Sanders attended White House gatherings during his 1995 to 1996 tenure, he was described as a peripheral participant rather than an organizer, with his evangelical Christian faith limiting deeper involvement. This difference in approach became increasingly significant as the Cowboys' culture spiraled further out of control. While Irvin plunged deeper into excess, Sanders maintained boundaries that ultimately protected him from the worst consequences of the White House era. The parties were described as nonstop orgies with unlimited drugs and alcohol. Players bragged about their exploits, with Irvin admitting years later, "In that room, you may be smoking weed. In this room, they may be doing ecstasy, coke, whatever." The toll of this culture became apparent through suspensions, injuries, and the team's eventual decline. What began as a celebration of success had transformed into a much darker reality, a systematic collapse of discipline and accountability that destroyed careers and lives. Interview 1611, 1630. This admission, made years later, reveals the internal struggle Irvin experienced even at the height of his success. He recognized his behavior as destructive, yet he was unable or unwilling to stop. The empire he had created was consuming him, turning his greatest strengths into his most dangerous weaknesses. The White House operated from roughly 1993 to 1996, representing the peak of the Cowboys' on-field success and the nadir of their off-field behavior. The operation ended abruptly in April 1996, after Irvin's arrest brought the parties into public scrutiny. Interview 1703, 1715. The end of the White House marked the beginning of the decline for the Cowboys dynasty. Without the structure that had fueled their success and with discipline removed, the team entered a downward spiral that would last for years. For Michael Irvin, the collapse of his empire represented more than the end of parties. It was the loss of a world where he felt powerful and in control. The violence and self-destruction that followed can be seen as the desperate actions of a man trying to maintain control in a rapidly slipping world. The harsh truth that Deion Sanders knows about Michael Irvin is that the same traits that made him great, his intensity, refusal to compromise, and need for control, also made him dangerous when channeled destructively. Redemption, brotherhood, and this terrible truth were intertwined. The conclusion of Michael Irvin's playing career in 1999 should have marked a smooth transition into retirement and broadcasting. Instead, it ushered in the darkest period of his life, when the demons he had fought for years nearly consumed him entirely. During this desperate period, Deion Sanders demonstrated the true depth of their friendship. Just months after Irvin's forced retirement on March 1st, 2000, he was arrested again for cocaine possession in Irving, Texas. The arrest, followed a routine traffic stop, revealed 3.5 g of cocaine in Irvin's Lincoln Navigator. For a man already on probation from his 1996 conviction, this arrest threatened up to 7 years in prison. The image of the once mighty playmaker reduced to a routine drug arrest in hotel parking lot symbolized the total collapse of everything he had built, now without football to provide structure and purpose. Irvin was plunging into an abyss of addiction and despair. Yet it was during this desperate period that Deion Sanders made what might have been the most important phone call of Michael Irvin's life. In early 2001, amid Irvin's post-arrest despair and before his June indictment, Sanders called at approximately 6 a.m. from Atlanta. This wasn't a casual check-in between former teammates. Sanders had watched his friend's downward spiral with growing concern, knowing Irvin was at a breaking point. The call lasted 20 to 30 minutes, with Sanders sensing Irvin's crisis through mutual friends. What Sanders said during that call changed everything. "Man, look, I don't know what it was or whatever it is, but let's fix it. I love you, my brother." Irvin described the conversation as tearful and raw, saying, "It breaks my heart. That's what made me scared." This wasn't merely a friend offering support. It was an intervention that would catalyze Irvin's spiritual transformation. The terrible truth Deion Sanders understood about Michael Irvin wasn't just about drugs, violence, or self-destruction. It went deeper. Sanders recognized that Irvin's behavior wasn't solely about addiction or anger. It stemmed from a fundamental emptiness that football had temporarily filled, but retirement had exposed. The call sparked Irvin's Christian conversion in early 2001, when he joined the Potter's House in Dallas under Pastor T.D. Jakes. Irvin later reflected, "Turned my life over to Christ with help from Pastor T.D. Jakes, and then took 40 years to realize God's hand." The charges from his 2000 arrest were eventually dismissed in November 2001 due to procedural issues. Yet the spiritual transformation initiated by Sanders' call proved more enduring than any legal resolution. Sanders had seen something in his friend that others missed. Not only the potential for destruction, but also the potential for redemption. He recognized that beneath the violence and addiction was a man grappling with pain and emptiness, which could only be healed through genuine change. Irvin's broadcasting career began earnestly in 2002 with ESPN. But even in his new role as an analyst, controversies continue to follow him. His past seemed to cast a shadow over every action, and critics were quick to question whether someone with his history deserved a media platform. In 2007, a woman accused Irvin of sexual assault at a Florida hotel, leading to a civil lawsuit and a $100 million defamation countersuit from Irvin. The case was settled confidentially in 2011, yet it demonstrated that Irvin's past continued to haunt him. In 2017, another sexual assault allegation arose in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but the Broward County State Attorney's Office declined to file charges due to insufficient evidence, citing video evidence contradicting the accuser's claims. Throughout these controversies, Deion Sanders remained a steadfast source of support. Their friendship, forged in the crucible of 1990s Dallas, had evolved into a brotherhood based on mutual accountability, shared faith, and unconditional love. Perhaps the most public test of Irvin's character came in February 2023, during Super Bowl 57 week in Phoenix. A female employee at the Renaissance Phoenix downtown hotel accused Irvin of making lewd comments and unwanted physical contact during a brief lobby encounter. The allegation led to Irvin's immediate suspension from NFL Network and ESPN, causing him to miss coverage of Super Bowl 57. In response, Irvin filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against Marriott. His reaction to this latest controversy revealed how much he had learned from previous experiences, but also that the wounds from his past still ran deep. Interview 22/22/2245. The raw emotion in Irvin's response reflected not only frustration with this particular situation, but also the accumulated pain of decades of scrutiny and judgment. His comparison to lynching was controversial, yet revealed the deep trauma inflicted by repeated allegations. When surveillance video was finally released in March 2023, it showed a brief, seemingly cordial conversation between Irvin and the employee, contradicting many of the claims. The video served as vindication for Irvin, but the damage to his reputation and career had already been done. Interview 23/16/2333. The case was settled confidentially in September 2023, with Irvin returning to NFL Network, but the incident had taken a toll both professionally and personally. Throughout this latest controversy, Deion Sanders once again stood firmly by his friend. Sanders publicly supported Irvin during crisis, tweeting, "Prime stand with playmaker. False accusations hit hard. #know your worth." In March 2023, the steadfast support from Sanders highlighted something deeper than friendship. It revealed a man who had witnessed his friend at his absolute worst and still believed in his capacity for good. Sanders understood that Irvin's journey had been far from perfect, but he also knew that redemption was possible for anyone willing to do the work. The most powerful demonstration of their bond came during Sanders' health crisis in 2025. In May 2025, Sanders underwent surgery for bladder cancer and blood clots, losing 20 to 25 pounds and stepping away from his Colorado Buffaloes coaching duties. For a man who had always embodied health and vitality, this medical emergency was a sobering reminder of mortality. Irvin immediately dropped everything to be at his friend's side. He made multiple visits to Sanders' Texas ranch, sharing humorous videos to lift his friend's spirits and providing the kind of emotional support that only comes from deep, genuine friendship. At the Big 12 Media Days in July 2025, a recovering Sanders publicly thanked Irvin. "Where's Mike Irvin? Playmaker. Man, I love you to life. Don't make me cry." Sanders praised Irvin as the real deal while condemning those who had exploited his illness. This moment, captured on video and witnessed by hundreds of media members, revealed the true nature of their relationship. Here was Deion Sanders, one of the most confident and self-assured athletes in history, openly expressing his love and gratitude for Michael Irvin before the world. Interview 25:20/25:29. The harsh truth is that Irvin's journey from Project of Miami to NFL stardom came with a psychological cost that he continues to bear today. The same drive that lifted him out of poverty also made him unwilling to accept what he perceived as disrespect or injustice, fueling the violent outbursts and self-destructive behaviors that nearly ruined his life. Now, at 59 years old, Michael Irvin continues his broadcasting career while mentoring young players and maintaining his close friendship with Sanders. Their latest interaction in September 2025 saw Irvin comparing their dynamic to popular podcasters, illustrating the enduring strength of their bond.